name of my company is Green Earth LLC. It's been in existence for about 3.5 years, and it's my third entrepreneurial venture. The first, Next Age Technologies, was a 3-time Inc. company. That's how I got introduced to Inc. And I think I'm hooked on to being an entrepreneur, so I love the process of entrepreneurship.
How did you get the idea to start your own business and be an entrepreneur for the first time?
Well, I come from a banking background, so I was a private banker, and a lot of my clients were entrepreneurs. So when I saw a lot of people succeed and able to create their own world where they could work with the people they liked, worked on ideas they were passionate about, so I thought, that was a pretty good way to work and live your life.
You knew about financing, you were a banker, you knew how, what the options were at least and whether you can get money for an idea or not. But how do you know when you hit on an idea? Where did you find that? How did it come to you?
It came about through an iterative process of talking to people, but quite frankly, it's not that we did a lot of research or planning around that idea. So we just thought this is a good idea and we kind of ran with it. So and if we did a lot of planning, perhaps we would not have started the company. So I think we did limited planning, but more staying on the course, being passionate about it, and making it happen.
Were you an sort of expert in this field or business before you started the company?
Actually, sustainability is an area of passion for me. So what I did is use my experience as a tech entrepreneur and my networks of relationships that I had built as a technology entrepreneur. And what I did was try to merge how to leverage technology to help sustainability in businesses as well as communities. And that's what my company Green Earth does now.
Sustainability is one of those words that we hear a lot now. You've got green in the name of your company, so that means something. So tell me, it's sort of a hot industry, but we're seeing already, some winners and losers in that field. So how do you make sure you stay on that one side and avoid the other?
The way I approach opportunity is I look at where my strengths are, where can I add value, and my team add value to a particular gap in the market. So we go in there. For example, we've been helping some local governments, townships and county level, where they would like to become sustainable, but they do not know how to go about doing it. So we go in there and we try to help them, give them a kind of a map of how can they use technology to reduce paper, make a lesser carbon footprint.
Can you tell us what you know about financing and how it applied to your venture?
I always looked for financing from a small group of friends and family. So I actually did make a few attempts to go to a VC, but then I realized that it's too cumbersome a process. You need to have business plans, and the funny thing is that they don't like to give away $1 million. They want to give it $10 million, which doesn't make sense to me. So the way I went about is I went to a small group of people who I knew, who trusted me, and for them the business plan was not what was important. The fact is that you were running the company. The trust factor is what was really key. Always when I start a business, I tell people that don't expect a return for the first 5 years. And after 5 years, yes, we can think in terms of either a return or maybe if there's a merger acquisition, some kind of a capital gain. So I manage expectations upfront. And I think it'll be good for any entrepreneur who's starting out to be realistic when they project financials to people who they approach for money.
We're hearing a lot of stories from entrepreneurs who sort of have a personal connection with a banker or a long-term relationship with a banker, but then the banker is copping out to the idea, well, we can't do this, we can't do this because you don't have 3 years worth of success. Well, I'm starting to, where do you get that when you're starting a company? I mean, I don't have 1 day of success, let alone 3 years. I want to put you on the other side of the table. And did you see that kind of frustration among entrepreneurs that had great ideas, but ran up against the bureaucracy of the banking industry.
No, absolutely. I saw that all the time as a banker, and I also saw it many times as an entrepreneur too. Even with a record of 2, 3 years, and you go to a bank, the banks were kind of hesitant to give you a loan or fund it. I've had this rather funny story where I went for my established business, which has over 100 employees, and it's been in business for 10 years. We wanted a line of credit a couple of years ago, and this was in 2010. So we just coming out of the recession, and showed the numbers to the bank, and the officer who was dealing with the loan asked that, how come your revenue is decreasing from 2007 to 8 to 9? So I was tempted to tell the person that your bank almost went out of business. It is one of those big banks which almost went broke. The idea here is that the officer dealing with the loan is not connected with the reality of business. So the fact that just there was a drop in revenue, and that's because of economic reasons, is something they could not. What the banker should have asked me is that, what is the pipeline of business? Whom are you talking to now? So that they could see what is happening the next 12 months. And I think this is a frustration with a lot of new entrepreneurs constantly have.
What advice do you have, or what's been your experience in how deep you need to go to understand the market?
Well, I think the best thing is to have people to whom we can count on as mentors, whether it's board of directors or advisors or a foundation like Kaufman, where you go and get some insights as to what's the market size, what does it take to reach out to that market base, etc. So I think it'll help if organizations can provide that information to entrepreneurs so that they make the right decisions.
The people that you bring, either on your executive team or working for you, working with the company, finding the right people, and then working that culture through the system. How have you done that?
The way I've done it is making sure that the key people have equity in the company. So even if it's a small stake, 1%, 2% stake, at least they can say that you're an owner of a company. So when I have my staff meetings, the assumption is that we are all owners, and therefore the responsibility to execute a decision is collective. I also have a formula where the annual bonuses and commissions are usually also paid in the form of equity. So therefore people can build equity over a period of time in those companies.
You're an entrepreneur. You're in the front lines. You know, how do we get more of you to take that plunge? Because you could have lived the rest of your life on the other side of the desk as a banker.
I was just reading through some of the Kaufman materials. So Kaufman has a lot of good recommendations. So I think it's to do with the system of how we teach or create the entrepreneur's mindset among children. So I think that is important. Education has to be kind of recalibrated so that it kind of encourages people to be more entrepreneurial rather than going after a typical job. I think the second thing is you've got to get a lot of these regulations has to be made easier. Taxes can be lowered. Immigrants can be the path for an immigrant to become an entrepreneur. I am an immigrant entrepreneur myself. So the path, but it takes a long time because for you to get your visas and green card, it takes almost 10 years. As a result of that, a lot of entrepreneurs that I know have given up the dream of being an entrepreneur just because they were not able to get their visa. So therefore, if that process can be made easier, it becomes, you get a much bigger pool of people who could be entrepreneurs, and they can also hire people who has the right skills. Now that the countries they came from, like India, China, are doing well, they have the option of going back. So therefore, a lot of them are doing that. They're coming here, getting their masters and PhD, and because of these visa issues, they're going back to those countries. So you see the reason why those countries are booming partly is because of this. And I think it's a loss for America, and we should do something to retain those folks within the country.
Nice job.
Thank you.